there, but let me add a little caveat to those of you who may not be familiar with the vaccine friendly plan. This was the plan I came up with when I left my old practice, where we were doing all the vaccines according to the CDC schedule. And I came up with something that I thought would be safer. I knew it would be safer. Well, the basic tenets of it are no vaccines in pregnancy, no Hep B for newborns unless mother has Hep B, only one aluminum containing vaccine at a time. Wait till age 3 on the MMR. Don't do the Hep A. I think we might have had the Hep A at age 2 in that book, but you can actually skip that further. There's just no need for it. And here's what I want to tell you. The vaccine friendly plan is way safer than the CDC schedule as far as the amount of aluminum exposure you're going to get. And we now have data on outcomes. We're working on getting this published. I did a quality analysis, QA, look at every baby born into my practice over the last 10 and a half years. And of course, these numbers are going to change when we analyze them under IRB for a formal publication. But just as a quality assurance project, I had an independent doctor come in and look at the data in my practice. We had, out of the 3,344 patients born into my practice the past decade, 715 who were unvaccinated. There was a case of autism out of those 715. Yes, you can get autism if you don't vaccinate. But the rate for the remainder, who were largely on the vaccine-friendly plan, was 1 out of 438. Contrast that with the rate in the population who are following the CDC schedule, which is 1 in 45, 1 in 58, 1 in 35 in New Jersey. Depending on which study you look at, there's a huge safety benefit by following the vaccine-friendly plan. But as we're going to publish soon and point out to you, it's still too much aluminum. So I think you could improve upon that by delaying when you get started to begin with. Let your baby's immune system mature. Let their body ability to detox. We know newborn kidneys, preemies kidneys, don't get rid of. They're functioning at a fraction of what they will be when they're older or adult levels. So there's a whole measure of safety by delaying even further than the vaccine-friendly plan. My caveat on the vaccine-friendly plan is this. If you're stuck thinking you've got to follow the CDC schedule, then this is a huge improvement. If you've already made the decision to go really, really slow, don't speed it up based on the vaccine-friendly plan, because it is still too much aluminum too soon. Thanks.
You're a good man. Good man. Thank you. So, people should know that Dr. Paul and I are working on what we refer to as a vax on vax retrospective study. I can't wait to sink my teeth into the data and see if we can predict who would have developed any neurodevelopmental disorder, any immunological disorder, based on not just on vaccine status, but using the other variables in the data along with vaccine status, to vaccination status, to see. This data wouldn't exist unless Dr. Paul was a kind, compassionate, ethical man, and apparently it wouldn't exist, right, in this format unless he actually met Maureen, because he, was at that conference, and so, we
That's
are
funny.
it's an amazing. You've made this possible, Maureen. You've made this study possible by speaking out and sharing what you know and sharing what you learned, and the pain and suffering that other people have experienced can be transferred into good by virtue of people being ethical, honest, and forthright. So I want to congratulate you, Dr. Paul, on being an ethical physician. And we're also doing another analysis on the sacrifice that we want to mention. There's a financial sacrifice that Dr. Paul is experiencing as a result of not cashing in, so to speak, on all the vaccines that he possibly could. And I have a team that's doing a fundraising event so that IPAC can participate in the analysis and publication of the difference in the revenue for Dr. Paul's practice if he were on the full practice. Because I've seen Dr. Paul take some heat in social media. I've seen people say some things about Dr. Paul that I wouldn't say an ethical physician, it should be attributed to him. He's trying his absolute very best. I'm promoting him. I'm not apologizing. He's one of the most ethical physicians I've ever had the personal honor of knowing. And so when we sit down and do those analyses, there's fundraising behind that. Those are GoFundMe that Gretchen's put together, and ICWA is participating, I think, too. We're going to get to the bottom of exactly what it means to Dr. Paul's practice. It's not, it's on a regular basis. He's not doing this out of profit motive. He's doing this to do as well as any physician can in the context. And so I want to, congratulate you. I think Maureen would join me in that.
Hey, let
Absolutely.
me add just a little caveat onto what you're talking about in loss of revenue. So when a pediatrician gives vaccines, they get a little tiny markup for, let's say I buy a vaccine for $100 and I charge $102, so I make a couple dollars. That's not where the profits are. In fact, some doctors even lose a dollar or two if their contract is bad and the reimbursement from insurance companies is not under our control. But where the money is in this thing called the admin fee. And if you take a typical 2-month visit, where if I was following the CDC schedule, we're going to give the DTaP, DTP, that counts as 3 vaccines, by the way, as far as admin fee goes. The rotavirus, the polio, the Hib, the Prevnar, and I'm missing one. There's 6 of them. But because of the multi-antigens, it turns out to be 8. With one insurance company, for example, you make $40 for the first antigen and over $20 for each subsequent antigen. Added up, it's a couple $100. That's per patient. Multiply that by however you want to count it. I have over 15,000 patients. I have 715 unvaccinated. The numbers are astronomical. It is an insane business decision to talk somebody out of a vaccine. Now, I don't talk people out of vaccines. I give them information. But here's the process of informed consent, which every physician should follow, is outline the risks, outline the benefits, and give them the alternatives. And one alternative for any preventative optional procedure, which a vaccine is, should be saying no, no thank you.
Right.
I need to do more research. I want to think about it, etc. Or I have a very strong family history of vaccine injury and I cannot afford to take that chance with my subsequent children. So in town, most of the practices, if you won't follow the CDC schedule, they kick you out. Most of these families end up in my practice. They won't vaccinate. Most practices will not take non-vaccinating families. They say it's because of the ethics of vaccines. I would just wonder whether the huge loss of income to them might be factoring into this. It feels like a conflict of interest. And so anyway, we will publish this data so that people can wake up to the fact that there are huge conflicts of interest around vaccinating. And when a doctor is telling you you need to do this or leave, that's coercion so they can make money. Now, pediatricians, by and large, are really good people. I have lots of friends who are just amazing people, and they aren't necessarily being unethical and money hungry by pushing the CDC schedule. They truly believe in their core that that is the right thing to do. And that's part of our dilemma is we have gotten our society from the doctors right down to the public basically unaware of vaccine risk, unaware of all the science that shows how you overactivate the immune system and trigger neurodevelopmental problems, trigger other chronic diseases, allergies, autoimmunity, etc. So we have our job in front of us is to educate people, and this show is just one of those examples. Share it with everybody you know and care about, because it's only going to be through word of mouth and sharing since the mass media is already owned by pharma.